find a debit card up here for Sherry Renato, so come claim that if you're here, okay? And right there. All right, well, I guess I'm supposed to wrap us up today. So I'm Gavin Seim, for those of you that don't know me, and it's great to see you all here. It's always wonderful to see people rally and stand for liberty. And what I'd like to do first is, for those who would like to, is to kneel with me. Father, I want to first pray for those across the road from us. I want to ask that you open our hearts, that we can unite in liberty, and that we can love our neighbor as ourselves, and that we can stand by for justice for all, rather than always fighting and opposing one another. I want to pray for our nation, God, that you open our hearts and remove the blindness and grant us repentance so that we can stand with liberty. We can stand for the liberty that Lavoie and Ammon and the patriots across this nation since it was founded have stood for. We're flawed, and we've failed in so many ways, and we've failed to defend the weak and the fatherless and the widow. But we ask that you give us strength and courage and open our eyes from blindness so that we can stand for liberty. Amen.
Amen.
Now, before I continue, I'm going to be pretty brief here, but I want to have my brother Nathan come up too. And you've seen probably Nathan on a video or two, but he's been doing a lot of work in the background on this, trying to help keep the narrative going. And I just want to have him make a brief statement on today's topic, and then I will wrap us up, and we will move on to say.
Yeah. My name is Nathan Seim, and I wanted to talk to you all about, do you remember the last video that Lavoie put out, the day before he died? Yeah. He was talking to the Burns Paiute. And I want to talk to everybody, not just the Patriot movement, the natives, from the Haudenosaunee to the Kumeyaay in California, all the way across the country, to the Black Lives Matter movement, to the Middle Eastern people, the Arabs, the Jews, I don't care, everyone. It's all the same cause. We all have legitimate grievances here. You know, we're not separate, we're not divided. They're abusing, you know, the black community the same as they're abusing the Patriots. They're abusing the Indians and stealing their land exactly the same. There's a man in Nevada, just north of
stealing Indian land. What are you talking about?
There's a man in Nevada just north of Ivan who they took his cattle. They took his cattle and nobody stood up for him. They came and stood up for Ivan. We have to unite and be together as one, not just the Patriot movement, but all the movements. Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, you know what? We got people with different opinions here, and I want to talk about that. I want to tell a little story. There was once a tyrant prince, and he had people that were dissatisfied with his reign, and he wanted him and his bureaucrats to control them. And so he said, well, what we need to do is we need to divide them one against the other. We need to divide the eye colors, and we need to divide the beliefs and the races, and those to go to churches with tall steeples and those to go to churches with short steeples, and we need to divide people against one another. Friends, we need to unite in liberty. We don't unite by standing with tyrants. We unite by standing against them on principle and for peace. Woo! As we stood on this corner down here, I saw a building, and on its walls was engraved the word Justice Center. And I cannot think of a place more unjust than this place. We scrap and we fight and we worry about terrorists and ISIS funded by our own government, and we worry about the people coming down our streets. Well, if ISIS comes down our street, nobody's going to fault me for defending myself. But if my government comes down the street, I become the terrorist. You see, I don't care. As a Christian, I have my firm resolve in my beliefs, and I'll tell that to everyone. But if someone is of another faith, or if they're Muslim, or even if I completely disagree with them, as long as they're not violating the rights of another, I will be defending their rights as well. Lavoie Finicum loved his neighbor. Lavoie Finicum loved these protesters across the street, and here's the thing that people don't realize. These people across the street, friends, we're on the same side. We both want our government to give us our land. We want our government to stop abusing our wives and our children and our brothers. We want liberty for our posterity. to stand up because we did this to this nation. We allowed a government of terrorists. And let's be clear, we see news stories and we share posts about ISIS, and we say, look at these terrorists. Friends, have you ever noticed that these black-robed tyrants look very similar? The greatest terrorists in this nation sit in that courtroom down the street. Amen. We terrorize the innocent and the widow and the fatherless and the weak and those who cannot defend themselves. We lock them in cages. We destroy their lives for nothing. The black and the Indian and the Mexican and the white, anyone is not safe from the hands of a tyrant prince. We need to stop pointing the fingers at our neighbors, and we need to start pointing the fingers at ourselves for allowing this evil. But at the same time, we need to remember that our words have power. We need to stop compromising our words. We need to stop saying, well, I don't agree with them, but I'm going to try and work within the system. You do not work within evil. You work within righteousness. You do not work within tyranny. You work within principle. You do not work within hate. You work within love. And I think Jesus said it best. He said, this is law. You love God and you love your neighbor as yourself. And this fundamental principle is where our Constitution comes from. Loving your neighbor as yourself, because when you love your neighbor as yourself, you cannot abuse your neighbor. And this carries forth into the principles of law, life, liberty, and property equally for all. We hold these truths to be self-evident. Yeah. And so as I close, and I hope we'll move on to Salem and keep the message going, we need to remember that our voice has power, that our words have power. We do not be silent. We do not stand still. We defend our neighbor.
Yeah, I like Gavin. Can I get an extra man mic? It's starting to get really you don't want to be sick of these things.
Hey, Gavin.
Okay, here, you can, hang on. I got it. I'm good, thank you. Here, let's just move over here. You good. Hey, what can I do for you guys?
First of all, how did you come to be here in Clinton today? You brought you here from
How to be here in Oregon?
Yeah.
I just showed up because we have all these principled men across the street locked in a cell because they upheld the Constitution. And so people are gathering and they're saying, hey, we want justice.
Did Ammon ask you to be here, or did somebody sort of ask you to come participate in this Portland rally?
No, I mean, I'm involved in political things, and I speak a lot about these things, and so, of course, people tell me when they're going on, and when I can, I just try and show up and be supportive.
So you just showed up of your own? You decided this
Yeah,
is the place for you to take? Because I know these are happening in Utah, I know there's...
Right. Well, and I'm from Washington, and this was one of the closer ones to me, and so I just wanted to be as supportive as I could for the Bundys and for the family, but really, it's for everybody. It's for Black Lives Matter, it's for the whites, it's for the blacks. It doesn't matter. It's about a government that respects the people.
So I heard you compare the federal judges in these courts here to terrorists.
Right.
Can you tell me what you mean by that?
Well, a terrorist is someone who uses threats of extortion and violence to get their way, and that's exactly what our court system and our justice system has done all across this nation. Everything you do, right down to the humble traffic ticket, is essentially a death penalty if you resist. And so all the way up to the federal courts, they say this is law, this is politeness, this is order. But there is no law. Our Constitution is the law. The law is our right to speech. It's our right to movement. It's our right to property. It's our right to be free and uninhibited. And so I would ask the people of this nation who are constantly terrified of their government. They're terrified when they're pulled over on a dark, lonely road at night. They're terrified about what's happening to this nation. Who are the terrorists?
But do you think if you were a federal judge who has never harmed a person, who has, acted lawfully and does your best to interpret the law, don't you think that
You know,
be an extremely offensive comparison.
Absolutely not. I cannot think of someone in this nation who has harmed more people than a federal judge. The law is this Constitution. They don't get to interpret it. They get to uphold that law and defend people's rights.
Right,
And what's happening is...
The comparison is the people who are literally beheading people, you know... And
do you know how many people our government killed? How many American people on our soil they killed last year in 2015? About 1,200. And I don't know the numbers of how many people were beheaded by ISIS. And don't get me wrong, I mean, they're wicked as well. But terrorism is terrorism. And so here it takes the shape of politeness and large, grand buildings and iron cells. And there it takes the shape of immediate violence, which is more grotesque to our eyes. But both of them shock the conscience when families are torn apart and fathers are locked in jail, when there is no victim, when there is nobody to come in court and say, I was harmed. The victim has become the state. And what's happened, just as they killed Lavoy Finicum, they are saying, we the state are the power, you are the subject.
Can you state your name and your title for us?
I'm Gavin Seim, and I'm just a Christian and a patriot and somebody that believes in loving my neighbor. Thank you.
So you see the government and the federal court system very, very literally as tyrannical.
They are very literally as tyrannical. The law is very explicit. The law says, for example, under Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17, that the federal government cannot own land like the Malheur Wildlife Refuge. And of course, that's just one part of the message. Ammon Bundy, it wasn't just about a wildlife refuge. It was about not terrorizing farmers. It was about keeping the land where it belongs. It was about state rights. It was about individual rights.
I'm not ignoring you. I'm just trying to find
I know
my
how it
lens
works.
covered in the rain.
Yeah, I know.
Like, oh, crap, this is not good.
So at the end of the day, you know, people say, well, it's a shocking thing to call a judge a terrorist. Most people are terrified to go even into a courtroom to observe. And I would challenge anybody who does not believe me to go into their court and to watch and to observe what's happening in these courtrooms and watch the terror in people's eyes and on their faces and feel the terror that they're put under by this justice system. A justice system that's supposed to be upholding the principles of life, liberty, and property. That's the only job of our governments, to defend that equally. So I hope that answers the questions.
It does. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Do you have any affiliation either with cows or with any of these other groups?
I've worked with some of the cows people, and you know, I work with anyone who's standing up for liberty. So yeah. Thank you. It's still on. No, it's not on. Oh yeah, it is. Hey, okay guys, we're clean up. The rain just came, so our timing is perfect, and we're going to move on to Salem and have a rally down there. And there's our wives over there, and Nathan. Hey, thank you. Appreciate it.